Imagine a country where crossing the street, or simply breathing, could cost you your life. A place where the sun disappears, hidden behind a cloud of pollution that blankets everything. With trains where there's no room to move, because people pack them so tightly that some have to ride on the roof. That country exists, and it's called Pakistan. In this nation, millions of people survive amid trash, noise, and chaos. A chaos that even becomes a spectacle. In traditions like the slap fighting championship, where something as simple as eating can go terribly wrong, and where some boast about raising lions as pets, while others survive on less than $2 a day. Here rise the most dangerous mountains on the planet, a landscape so extreme that for centuries it has hidden a people with unique traits, more reminiscent of the Vikings of Northern Europe than of the country's own people. Get comfortable, leave a like, and subscribe to Uncensored World. You're about to discover the extreme reality that millions face every day in the world's most chaotic country. Let's get started. In one of the wildest and most inhospitable regions on the planet, where nature sets the limits and life depends on adapting every day, lies Pakistan. Located in South Asia, it borders Afghanistan, India, Iran, and China, and opens onto the Arabian Sea. A strategic point where history, tensions, and contrasts difficult to comprehend converge. With an area of over 880,000 square kilometers, it is now the fifth most populous country in the world. More than 240 million people concentrated in a territory that, as you'll discover, constantly lives on the edge. To understand this pressure, one idea suffices. If a country like the United States had a similar population density, it would far exceed 1 billion inhabitants. But Pakistan isn't just about numbers, it's about contrast. In a matter of hours, you can go from fertile valleys traversed by the Indus River to deserts where life barely survives, or to some of the most extreme mountains on the planet. And between those extremes, something even more surprising. Completely isolated regions where communities have lived for centuries on the margins of the modern world. Societies with customs, beliefs, and norms that bear no resemblance to what dominates the country. All within the same territory, Pakistan is not uniform. It is a sum of distinct worlds, forced to coexist. But this country did not start out this way. Pakistan was born on August 14, 1947, and it did so in the midst of one of the most chaotic processes in modern history. The partition of the Indian subcontinent triggered one of the largest human displacements ever recorded. Millions of people crossed makeshift borders in a matter of days, without planning, without security, and often without a destination. It is estimated that more than 1 million people lost their lives, and that more than 15 million abandoned their homes overnight. A massive exodus, rapid and deeply violent. Overcrowded trains, roads filled with fleeing families, and entire communities disappearing in a matter of weeks. Pakistan was born in that context, and that instability has never completely disappeared. In its early years, the country was divided into two territories, one to the west and another to the east, separated by more than 1,000 kilometers, and by another country in between, a division difficult to sustain, especially when one of those regions began to feel ignored. That region was East Pakistan, a densely populated territory vulnerable and exposed to the elements. And then something happened that changed everything. In the year 1970, the Bola cyclone struck that area with devastating force, a storm that wiped out entire villages in a matter of hours. That flooded lands, destroyed crops, and left millions of people with nothing. It is estimated that between 300,000 and 500,000 people lost their lives. One of the greatest natural disasters in history. But what came next was even more decisive. The government's response was perceived as slow and insufficient. And that triggered something far more profound than the disaster itself. Discontent, distrust, and division. What began as outrage ended in conflict, protests, repression, and finally, a war. A process that would end with the independence of that territory, and the birth of a new country, Bangladesh. A separation that didn't just change the map, it also made something important clear. Pakistan was a young country, but already deeply strained, and as its history fragmented, its population kept growing. Today, that pressure is felt in every corner, in space and in resources and in the way of life, and this is where everything starts to come together. Because this combination of rapid growth, extreme geography, and uneven development is the foundation of the country you're about to discover. Now then, based on what you've seen so far, what grade would you give this country on a scale of 1 to 10? At the end of the video, we'll see if you stick with that same grade. Because what comes next can't be understood from a distance. It's understood from the inside, from its cities, from its chaos, and from a reality that, in many cases, goes far beyond what you can imagine. But before we dive into that daily life, there's something you need to keep in mind. Because in this very country where millions struggle to survive, there are symbols of power that seem to come from another reality. Wild animals living in mansions, turned into status symbols. You'll see it later on. And when that moment comes, you'll understand that Pakistan isn't just a country of contrasts. It is a country of extremes. All of this isn't just history, it's lived every day. Because if there's one place where you truly understand what this constant pressure means, it's in its cities, especially in Karachi, one of the largest in the world, where millions of people coexist in a fragile balance marked by a lack of space, constant noise, and a perpetual sense of overcrowding. Here, density isn't just a statistic, it's a daily experience. The streets are always crowded, neighborhoods grow without planning, and many families share tiny spaces where privacy is practically non-existent. The city is growing rapidly, but its infrastructure can't keep up. This is reflected in everything. Hospitals operate at capacity, with long wait times and insufficient resources. Schools cannot accommodate the entire youth population, and basic services, such as water or electricity, frequently fail because demand exceeds all projections. And yet life goes on. Every morning, millions of people take to the streets knowing that getting around is already a challenge. Traffic is constant, chaotic, and unpredictable. Cars, motorcycles, buses, and pedestrians share the same space in a dynamic where rules exist, but are rarely strictly enforced. The sound of car horns is constant. Heat builds up between the asphalt and the buildings, and covering short distances can become an exhausting task. Public transportation perfectly reflects this situation. Trains run completely packed, with people occupying every available corner, traveling in the aisles, hanging onto the doors, and even on top of the cars. It's not a choice, it's the only option for many. When the system can't accommodate everyone, people adapt, even if that means taking constant risks. That adaptation defines life here. Fast-paced, intense, and often on the edge. And that same urgency is reflected in something as basic as food. In many parts of the city, eating isn't a moment of respite, but an immediate necessity. Street stalls operate non-stop, with quick preparations, reused utensils, and conditions that prioritize speed over any form of control. There is no constant supervision or uniform standards, and that gives rise to scenes that, viewed from the outside, can be hard to understand. Situations that seem unreal, but are part of everyday life. In fact, at the beginning of this video, you saw something specific. A detail on a plate that probably caught your eye. Something out of place. Later on, you'll discover exactly where it comes from. But first, we'd like to know what you think. Where do you think it comes from? Leave your thoughts in the comments, we want to hear from you. Because in Pakistan, even everyday things can have an unexpected origin. And all of this happens in an environment where rushing is not optional. People live on just enough, work with just enough, and often eat with just enough. There's no margin, no pause, and every decision is shaped by that constant pressure. But urban chaos isn't the only thing that defines this country. So do its traditions. For example, competitions where participants face off in a full-on brawl, in direct combat where the winner is whoever lasts the longest. a spectacle that draws crowds and, for many, is part of their culture. You're sure to be surprised to learn more about it, and we'll get to that shortly. But before we get there, there's something more important to understand. Because living here isn't just about sharing space with millions of people. It's about trying to build a life within a system that often can't sustain you. And that completely changes the way you live. Now, you'll begin to truly understand what it means, in Pakistan, to keep moving forward every day. Because if there's one thing that defines this country, beyond its cities and its people, it's its geography. In the north, Pakistan rises to become one of the most extreme territories on the planet. There lie three of the most imposing mountain ranges on Earth: the Himalayas, the Karakoram, and the Hindu Kush. An environment where nature does not adapt to humans but forces humans to adapt to it. These mountains are not just a visual spectacle. They are a barrier, a natural isolation that for centuries has kept entire regions completely cut off from the rest of the world. Here, glaciers are born that feed vital rivers. Here, impossible routes are carved out. And here, cultures have been preserved that, anywhere else, would have disappeared centuries ago. In this environment stands one of the most feared mountains on the planet. K2. At over 8,600 meters high, it is the second highest mountain in the world. But its fame is not due to its height, but to its danger. Its ascent is extremely technical. The weather changes in a matter of minutes and avalanches are constant. For years, the mortality rate on this mountain has been among the highest in the world. During the most critical periods, 1 in 4 people attempting to reach the summit did not return. There is no margin for error here. Here, every decision could be your last. Its slopes are extremely steep, the weather changes suddenly, and avalanches are frequent and unpredictable. For a long time, it was considered one of the most difficult mountains to climb on the planet. Numerous expeditions failed, and many of them ended in tragedy. The extreme cold, the altitude exceeding 8,000 meters, and the technical complexity of its routes make every attempt a real risk. Here, it's not just physical endurance that's put to the test. Human limits are put to the test. And that is why, over the years, those who know this mountain well stopped seeing it as a challenge and began to see it for what it truly is, a place from which not everyone returns. But the true symbol of this environment is not just a summit. It is a road, the Karakoram Highway. Considered the highest highway on the planet, it reaches an altitude of nearly 5,000 meters at some points. It connects Pakistan with China, traversing some of the world's most rugged landscapes. But beyond its height, what makes it truly impressive is its danger. Narrow stretches on the edge of cliffs hundreds of meters high with no guardrails, where a single mistake can send a vehicle plummeting into the void. Vertical rock walls, constant landslides, and weather conditions that can change in a matter of minutes. Construction began in the late 1950s and became one of the most difficult engineering feats in modern history. Thousands of workers lost their lives during its development, facing avalanches, falls, and extreme conditions. A road that doesn't just connect countries, it connects worlds. And thanks to it, today it is possible to access regions that remained completely isolated for centuries. But before it existed, there were places that were simply unreachable. And in those places, something unique happened. Deep within these mountains, in an environment more inaccessible than many parts of the Amazon rainforest, a community survived that was completely different from the rest of the country. The Kalash, a people who have lived in isolation for centuries, developing a culture of their own that bears no resemblance to anything in the rest of Pakistan. And the first thing that catches your eye is their appearance. In a country where South Asian features and Muslim culture predominate, the Kalash have characteristics more reminiscent of Viking populations. Light hair, often blonde, blue or green eyes, fair skin. A contrast that has sparked theories for years. But beyond their appearance, what is truly surprising is their way of life. The Kalash are a community of just a few thousand people living in remote valleys of the Hindu Kush. For centuries, their isolation was total. Only recently, has it become possible to access their territories with any ease. That isolation has allowed them to preserve ancient traditions. They do not follow Islam, as most of the country does. They practice an animist religion based on nature, spirits, and their ancestors. Their celebrations are filled with music, rituals, and symbolism. Their way of understanding life is completely different. And one of the most striking aspects is the role of women. Compared to other regions of the country, Kalash women enjoy much greater freedom. They actively participate in social life, make decisions, and maintain a visible presence in their community. There are also practices that completely break with what is dominant in the rest of the country, such as the ability to choose a partner with greater freedom, or the existence of social structures different from the usual ones. All of this in an environment where, for centuries, no one entered and no one left. But this reality is also in danger. External pressure, cultural change, and migration are gradually reducing their population and transforming their way of life. A unique culture that could disappear. If you've made it this far, leave a like. It's the best way to support this kind of content and help us continue showcasing realities that almost no one else covers. Speaking of traditions, very soon you'll learn about the new trend in Pakistan, keeping lions as pets. But before that, let's explore other extraordinary curiosities, like the slap fighting contest that takes place every year in different villages across the country. The slap fighting championship has become one of the region's most eye-catching events. In these competitions, participants face off and take turns slapping each other with an open hand until one of them can't continue. The blows are sharp, direct, and often strong enough to knock the opponent down. Even so, these events draw crowds that watch every impact intently. To outsiders, it may seem strange, but within these communities, winning one of these matches earns respect, recognition, and status. And now we want to hear your opinion. Would you dare to participate in this slapping contest or challenge someone to one? Leave your thoughts in the comments. But if this already surprises you, wait until you see what's next, because there's something that goes far beyond any tradition. In certain parts of the country, some men have begun living alongside wild animals as a symbol of power. Lions, raised from a young age, kept on private properties, and used as a way to demonstrate wealth and status. A practice as striking as it is controversial, even more so when we consider that in a country where millions struggle to survive, there are people who live alongside predators as a symbol of status. Predators that, even if they believe they have them under control, are still wild animals. And as you'll see later, that has consequences. Before getting into these details, if you haven't already, subscribe to Uncensored World, because what you're seeing now is just a part of a much more complex reality. In Pakistan, this practice isn't just an isolated eccentricity. There are documented cases where these animals, raised in domestic environments, have attacked people when things got out of control. Not because of constant aggression, but out of instinct. A sudden movement, a noise, an unexpected reaction, and the animal responds as it is. Wild. In some cases, these lions are kept in private spaces without proper conditions, and although many owners claim they are trained, the reality is that no amount of training can eliminate their nature. There are reports of attacks inside homes, at private celebrations, and even in spaces where everything was supposedly under control. Situations that end with serious injuries, and in some cases, with fatal outcomes. To try to reduce that risk, some owners resort to questionable practices, from keeping the animals in cramped spaces to using sedatives to calm them down at specific times. It is also common to see them chained or physically restrained, and sometimes even transported in vehicles, as if they were merely an extension of their owner's status. Images that, far from showing control, reflect just how fragile that supposed security really is. And this is where the true contradiction lies. In a country where millions of people struggle every day to meet their basic needs, others live alongside predators as a symbol of power. An image that perfectly sums up what Pakistan is: a country of extremes. But if everything you've seen so far defines what life is like in Pakistan, what comes next defines how one survives. Because here, for millions of people, working isn't an option. It's the only way to stay afloat in a system that offers no second chances. The workdays are long, rest is scarce, and the margin for error practically non-existent. In many parts of the country, work begins before sunrise and ends when there is no light left. There are no clear schedules, no stability, and often no guarantees either. People work with just enough. They earn the bare minimum, and they live day to day. In this country, millions of people spend hours working in enclosed spaces, in the heat and without protection, knowing that their body is their only tool, and that the day it fails, there will be no other option. Pakistan is one of the world's largest textile producers. Much of the clothing circulating globally originates here. But behind that industry, what you find are not large modern factories as you might imagine, but small workshops where heat, noise, and physical strain are part of the environment. People who spend hours sewing, handling fabrics, or working with chemical dyes without adequate protection. Enclosed spaces, limited ventilation, and constant exposure to substances that, over time, take their toll. And yet, it's an opportunity. Because outside of that, there's often nothing. But if this environment already seems harsh, what happens on Pakistan's coast takes this reality to another level. In a place called Gadani, there is one of the largest ship graveyards on the planet. Here, massive oil tankers and cargo ships wash up on the shore to be dismantled piece by piece. Not with advanced machinery, not with modern technology. By hand, thousands of workers climb onto these gigantic structures knowing that every step could be their last. They cut metal, drag parts, breathe in toxic fumes, and work surrounded by hazardous materials with barely any protection. The ground is saturated with waste. The air is thick, and the risk constant. Many of these workers come from rural areas drawn by the promise of an income. But what they find is an environment where the body wears down quickly, and where the consequences aren't always immediately apparent. Here, there's no room to stop, because stopping means not getting paid. But if work defines the effort, food defines the limit. And now you will. Now you'll understand what you saw at the beginning. On the streets of many cities in Pakistan, food is prepared under conditions that, to an outsider, may be hard to stomach. Makeshift stalls, reused utensils, surfaces exposed to dust, traffic, and the environment. But there's something even more important: water. In many cases, the water used for cleaning, cooking, or preparing food does not come from treated systems. It may come from contaminated sources, open canals, or tanks without sanitary oversight. And that changes everything. Because it's not just about how it's cooked, but what goes into that process without anyone seeing it. That detail you saw at the beginning of the video, that strange element inside the food. Now you know where it comes from and why it doesn't surprise anyone here. It's not an exception. It's a consequence. A consequence of living fast, of having no alternatives, and of prioritizing survival above all else. Even so, millions of people eat here every day. Not because they want to take that risk, but because it's often the only option available. Cheap, fast, but at a price that isn't always immediately apparent. Diseases, infections, and health problems that are part of daily life in many communities. And yet, life goes on. After seeing this, we want to know something. Would you dare to eat here, or do you think you couldn't do it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Because understanding a country isn't just about seeing its landscapes or its culture. It's about understanding what it means to live there. And in Pakistan, that means taking risks that, in other places, would be unthinkable. But if you think this is the biggest problem, wait until you see what happens when even the air you breathe isn't safe. Pakistan is surrounded by some of the highest and purest mountain ranges on the planet, an environment where the air, under natural conditions, should be clean, cold, and practically untouched. However, in many of its cities, the exact opposite is true. Breathing has become a burdensome, uncomfortable, and at times, even dangerous routine. The air isn't clear. It's thick, gray, and laden with particles from a constant mix of traffic, industrial activity, airborne dust, and waste burning. All of this gets trapped over the major cities, forming a layer that covers everything and, in places like Lahore, can completely obscure the sky for days. It's not fog, it's pollution. And what's most concerning is that this isn't a one-off occurrence, but a situation that repeats itself every year and is part of daily life for millions of people. Walking, working, or simply being outdoors means exposing oneself for hours to an environment that, in other parts of the world, would be considered extreme. The consequences aren't always immediate, but they're there. Respiratory problems, constant fatigue, hospitals receiving an increasing number of cases related to air quality, and schools that at certain times of the year are forced to close temporarily. All of this happens without making headlines, but with a devastating impact on people's lives. Because here, there are days when the horizon disappears completely. Because this problem doesn't arise on its own. It is the result of everything you've seen so far. The rapid growth of cities, uncontrolled traffic, the lack of adequate infrastructure, and a population that keeps growing generate constant pressure that ultimately affects something as basic as the air. And yet, life goes on. People adapt, accept it as normal, and carry on. Pakistan doesn't just face challenges created by its own development, it also coexists with an extremely unstable natural environment. The country is located in one of the most seismically active zones on the planet, right at the point where the Indian plate constantly collides with the Eurasian plate. This movement is not a one-time event. It is continuous and generates hundreds of small earthquakes every year, many of them imperceptible, but others with devastating consequences. In 2005, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the Kashmir region, leaving more than 80,000 victims and millions of people homeless. In a matter of minutes, entire cities were completely destroyed. And that was not the only one. Pakistan experiences seismic activity on a recurring basis, a constant reminder that the ground on which millions of people live is never completely at rest. But the threat doesn't come only from below. It also comes from the sky. During the monsoon season, intense and prolonged rains batter much of the country, causing rivers to overflow, flooding cities, and destroying crops. In 2022, exceptional rains triggered one of the worst recent disasters, affecting more than 30 million people. Roads disappeared, entire villages were submerged, and millions of people lost their homes. In a country where a large part of the population depends directly on the land, these floods not only destroy homes, they also destroy the possibility of a quick recovery. This is the reality. A land where the earth shifts, where water sweeps everything away, and where stability is, more often than not, only temporary. And now, after everything you've seen, we want to go back to the beginning. Based on what you've discovered in this video, would you keep the rating you gave it at the start, or would you change it? On a scale of 1 to 10, what score would you give Pakistan now? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. As you've seen, understanding a country like this isn't easy. Even so, millions of people manage to get by every day in an environment that always seems to be working against them. At Uncensored World, we hope this journey has helped you understand a reality that is rarely shown as it truly is. A country full of contrasts, of difficulties, but also of an ability to adapt that leaves no one indifferent. If this video has made you see Pakistan in a different light, leave a like and tell us in the comments what impacted you the most. It's the best way to support the channel so we can keep bringing you stories like this. And if you want to keep discovering places that challenge everything you thought you knew, here's another video. We promise it won't leave you indifferent.